I'm going to be reading to you I Will Come Back for You, A Family in Hiding During World War II by Maurice Sabani Russo. It was published by the Swartz and Wade Books in 2011. I chose this book because it talks about a family during the Holocaust whose children's dad tries to run and hide from the Nazi army, and they end up finding him. But I'm just going to read it to you. I Will Come Back for You, A Family in Hiding During World War II. My Nana changes her jewelry every day, but there is one bracelet she always wears. It is a charm bracelet, a gift from my mama. Sometimes we sit together and Nana lets me touch the tiny charms: a donkey, a piano, a bicycle, a piglet, a barn, a spinning wheel, and a boat. One day I asked Nana why she never takes off her bracelet. Because the charms remind me of a long time ago when I was a little girl, she says. Shall I tell you their story? Yes, Nana, I answered right away, and so she begins. When I was smaller than you, I lived in an apartment with tall windows that looked out over a busy piazza in Rome. In Italy, I say? Yes, says Nana. Every afternoon, my mama took your great Uncle Roberto and me to a park called the Villa Borghese. They had puppet shows and a cafe for ice cream and even donkey rides. Nana touches the donkey charm. I loved those rides, but Roberto, he was sometimes frightened. He thought the donkeys might gallop too fast. Did they? I asked. Oh no, says Nana. They were very gentle. Afterwards, Roberto and I would chase each other up and down and all around the pass. Occasionally, we would see soldiers. Roberto liked to salute to them. The piazza is just like a little town square. And then there they are riding the donkey and the soldier. Late in the afternoon, when we were tired and cranky, Mama walked us home. After dinner, we had our baths, put on our PJs, and waited for Papa. Every evening, he played the piano for us before we went to bed. I rested my head on Nana's shoulders as she softly sings a song I've never heard before. Fala Nana Bombin, Fala Nana Bel Bombin. It was a happy time. Fala Nana Bombin is Italian for Rockabye Baby. But then things started to change for us. For all the Jews in Italy, new laws said Jews were not allowed to own radios or go to certain beaches or even attend public school. One day, the police chief of Rome ordered Papa to leave our family and move to a small village up in the mountains. Why? I asked. Did he break one of the new laws? No, says Nana. A terrible war broke out in Europe. When Italy joined the German side, the government started rounding up foreign Jewish men like Papa, who was from Poland. The Nazi government in Germany had been treating Jews unjustly, and now Italy was too. Nana looks away. All I knew was that I missed my Papa. Our apartment was too quiet without his laughter and his music. Nana touches the tiny piano charm on her bracelet. On the weekends, Mama would take us to the train to the mountains. I remember the very first time we arrived at the station and so many donkeys were lined up in a row. Roberto started to cry. Scared of the donkeys, I say? Exactly, says Nana. Luckily, Papa was waiting for us, and Roberto jumped into his arms. We rode in a wagon to the village where a family, the Silvestris, let us stay with them. They had a yard full of chickens and their own donkey, too. Poor Roberto, donkeys everywhere. The hardest part was that Papa was not allowed to stay overnight with us. He had to sleep at the inn where he lived with all the other Jewish men who were being detained. It wasn't really a jail. They could come and go as they liked, but every morning they had to report to the police station for roll call. During the day, we had lots of fun with Papa. We played marbles and had running races, and he sang to us before our naps. But every Sunday evening, we had to say goodbye and return to Rome, and we had no idea our separation would last months, then years. One weekend, Papa came to Mama with some terrible news. I was outside feeding the chickens, but I could hear them talking through the window. Papa said he'd learned that the Germans were coming to the village. They planned to send all the Jewish detainees to a concentration camp, a real prison in Germany. Papa was going to run away and hide. "Don't go, Papa," I called, jumping up and down in front of the window. "Cara mia, I must leave," Papa replied. He leaned out and lifted me into his arms. Then he whispered, "I will hide a message for you and Mama in the trunk of the old beech tree at the bend in the road, so you will know I'm safe. Then you must go to Rome. When the war is over, I will return." Papa made me promise not to tell Roberto about the plan. He didn't want my little brother to give everything away. That same evening, Papa slipped away with only some clothes he was wearing. The next morning, a policeman came looking for him because he'd missed roll call. Mama just shook her head and said, "I have no idea where he is." The policeman grew angry and said, "Well, Signora, since we must deliver 17 Jews to the Germans tomorrow, we will send you instead. Pack your things. I will be back this evening to collect you." Roberto and I were very scared. When Mama put us to bed, she said, "Bambini, do not worry. I will never let them take me away." But what could my mother do? That evening I sang to Roberto, "Rockabye Baby," until we both fell asleep. We didn't know what Signora Silvestri and her two brave sons, Carlo and Rodolfo, had a plan. Carlo made a terrible concoction of hot water and cigar leaves and told Mama to drink it. It would give her a fever, make her dizzy, and if she was too sick to travel, the transport would have to leave without her. Oh, how sick she became after only a few sips. When the policeman returned, Mama was curled up in bed. "Still," he said, "no matter. The transport is not until tomorrow. I will sit in front of the house in case she tried to escape." Carlo and Rodolfo carried their comfortable chair outside for the policeman. They brought him a big plate of spaghetti and 2 bottles of wine. And guess what? Before long, he was snoring away. Nana shows me her tiny bicycle charm. It has wheels that really spin. Now the 2 brothers roused Mama. She says they carried her out of the back door and made her sit on the handlebars of Carlo's bicycle. Holding Mama with one arm, Carlo pedaled farther up into the mountains to an old farmhouse. The farmer, a friend of the Silvestris, was a kind man who did not like the war. He helped poor Mama into his barn where she fell asleep on the bed of hay. I was so scared when I woke up and Mama was gone, and there was such a commotion outside. The policeman was yelling at Signora Silvestri. Carlo and Rodolfo were yelling back. Roberto was crying, "Dove Mama? Where's Mama?" As we watched from the doorway, I whispered, "Don't worry, she will come back for us." Finally, when the policeman was gone, Signora Silvestri hugged us. "Ragazzi, you are safe with me until your Mama can return," she said. "For now, you will be my children." But we didn't want to be her children. Roberto and I both cried every day, even though Signora Silvestri made us delicious foods like polenta and zabaglione, and her sons kicked soccer balls with us. Roberto followed me everywhere. After that, I would disappear too. How could Mama just leave us? I kept wondering. A few weeks later, a neighbor, Signora Brunelli, stopped by, leading a donkey with baskets strapped to its back. Nana paused to touch the little donkey charm on her bracelet. "Would you like to go for a ride, Bombini?" he asked. "Yes, yes," I said, but Roberto started to cry. Signora Silvestri whispered a secret. "Signor Brunelli is going to talk to your mamma." Signor Brunelli helped us into the baskets. What a surprise! There were piglets in each one. Signora Silvestri had us crouch down, then she placed a small cloth on each of our heads, and on top of that, a piglet. "Like little piglet hats, I say." "True," says Nonna, with a smile, touching the piglet charm on her bracelet. Everyone in the village knew that Signor Brunelli took his piglets higher into the mountains to trade with other farmers. Who would suspect that huddled under the baby pigs were two small children? It was a long, bumpy ride. I listened for Roberto, but if he was crying, it was drowned out by the piglets squealing. "They must have missed their mammas too," I say. "Yes," says Nonna. Then at last we reached the farmhouse, but we didn't see Mamma anywhere. The farmer's wife led us to a field where women in long skirts and headscarves were working. One rushed over and covered us with kisses. It was Mamma. Nonna smiles and shows me another charm. It is a barn with a tiny door that opens and closes. That night, Mama told us she had found Papa's note in the trunk of the beech tree. He was hiding farther up in the mountains. When it was safe, we would all be back together. For many months we stayed at the farm. We played with the farmer's children and Mama worked in the fields. She learned how to carry water jugs on her head and even how to spin yarn from sheep's wool. We all looked like part of the farmer's family, so no one suspected we were Jews. I touched the spinning wheel charm. Now Nonna has a faraway look. I wait for her to finish the story. "And what about your Papa?" I finally ask. "We never saw Papa again," says Nonna. Later we learned that he joined the Partigiani, which is a group of people who were fighting against the Germans, and it was very dangerous. One day, a couple of Nazi soldiers found his hideout, and they killed him. Nonna gently runs a finger across all the charms of her bracelet. At last, on a beautiful day in June, the war was finally over in the mountains. Mama took Roberto and me back to Rome, but the city was in such chaos. Strangers were living in our apartment, and there were long lines for food, and there were few jobs. Mama decided it was time for us to leave, and so we sailed for America. This is why I have this charm. Nonna shows me a tiny ocean liner. Now, one by one, I touch the charms. When I get to the donkey, I say, "Thank you for helping my Nonna." "Yes, thank you for the donkeys, the piglets, the brave Silvestris, and the kind farmers," Nonna says. Then she kisses my forehead. "Isn't that a long story for such a simple charm bracelet?" "No," I say. "It's exactly right." Thanks for watching, guys. Bye.